This is part 2 of the review for the quiz on solving linear equations. Just like the first part, I am going to work out a few of the problems and then the video will stop and you guys will work out the other ones. Okay, so now we're working with section 1.3, which had our multi-step equations, which had variables on both sides, parentheses, some fractions, and also some special solutions. So let's start with number 11. Number 11, what we see is that we have variables on both sides, so I'm going to start by moving the c that's by itself to the other side with the 3c by subtracting it. So then I have 2c plus 1 equals 1. And now I'm going to subtract the constant from both sides, the 1, and what I get is I have 2c equals 0. Now don't right away think that this is a no solution, because I have a c and it equals a value. 0 is a value. So I can go ahead and finish my solution as I would any other problem, and my answer is going to be c equals 0, which is a number. So there is a solution to this problem. The next one I'm going to do is number 13. What we see in 13 is that we have the distributive property. So I'm going to do that first. I'm going to distribute that 2 to the 8 and then to the minus 5. So let's go ahead and do that. So I get 16q minus 10 equals 4q. Now this is one of our special cases with variables on both sides. The 4q is all by itself, so I want to leave it there. So what I'm going to do, instead of subtracting 4q, I'm going to subtract 16q from both sides. So those will cancel. Remember to bring down the negative with the 10. So I have negative 10 equals 4q minus 16q, which is negative 12q. So I'll rewrite that. So I have negative 10 equals negative 12q. I'm going to divide by negative 12. And again, it doesn't go in evenly as a problem on the front, but that's all right. Two negatives make a positive. Simplifying 10 over 12, I get 5 over 6. And that is going to be our solution, 5, 6. Okay. The next one I'm going to do is number 16. Okay, we have parentheses on both sides and variables on both sides. So you're going to start by taking care of the distributive property. I'm going to distribute the negative 4 to the negative 5h and to the negative 4. Then I'll also distribute the 2 to the 10h and to the 8. So I'm going to have negative 20h plus 16, I'm sorry, that should be positive 20. I have a negative times a negative. Plus 16 equals 20h plus 8. Okay, so now I want to put my h's together, and what I notice is when I move the h's from one side to the other, they completely cancel. So I am left with 16 equals, and then hopefully you guys noticed that I forgot to distribute that correctly. So I'm going to do 2 times 8 and get 16 here. So I get 16 equals 16. This is a good thing. Since they're the same number, I write infinitely many solutions. Because that means any number will work, because you'll always get 16 equals 16, regardless of what number you substitute for h. Okay, so I'm going to have you guys go back and do 12, 14, and 15. Once you do that, then we'll do the 2 word problems together. Okay, so number 17 says to estimate how many miles you are from a thunderstorm, you count the number of seconds between when you see the lightning and when you hear the thunder. Then you divide by 5. Write and solve an equation to determine how many seconds you would count for a thunderstorm that is 2 miles away. So what they're saying is the miles away that the storm is equal to how many seconds went by, and once you do that, you divide that by 5. Okay, so we're given that we know that the thunderstorm is 2 miles away, so we're curious how many seconds that would take for us to count before we hear it. So what we're going to do is we're going to undo that division by multiplying by 5. They'll cancel. So we get 10 equals S. So that tells us that you would count for 10 seconds. And that's going to be our answer. Okay, next problem. You want to hang 3 equally sized travel posters on a wall so that the posters on the ends are each 3 feet from the end of the wall. You want the spacing between the posters to be equal. Write and solve an equation to determine how much space you should leave between the posters. Now, I want you to take note of this part, and I didn't point that out in the last one. It's the same thing. You're being asked to write an equation. Now, I know many of you could just figure this out by taking your total distance, subtracting off what you're given, and then dividing it in half because it has to be the same. But we need to write an equation. So we want to start by creating a variable. So the distance between the pictures is going to be x. X here and here. So to write my equation, what I'm going to see is my total distance is 15. So 15 is going to equal all these distances right across here. So I have 3 feet plus 2 feet plus an x plus 2 feet plus an x plus 2 feet plus 3 feet. So putting all those feet together, so I'm going to add the 3, the 2, the 2, the 2, and the 3. And when I add those all together, I get 12. And then I also have x and x. So I have plus 2x. And now I've written my equation, so now I can solve it. Subtract 12. And I get 3 equals 2x, divide by 2. 3 halves is 1.5. So the distance between the pictures is 1.5 feet. So that is my answer to this problem. All right, I hope all these problems helped you get ready for the quiz. If you can do these problems and understand the word problems, you will have no difficulties at all in getting a good grade on the quiz. Good luck.